video or screen recording is prohibited throughout the entire online webinar. Before we begin with the webinar, please allow me to briefly introduce IET, the student session, and CPD. The Institution of Engineering and Technology, IET, was founded in 1871. It is one of the world-leading professional societies for the engineering and technology community. It has over 158,000 members in 153 countries and has more than 100 local networks in 37 countries, including the one here in Hong Kong. The other office of IET can be also found in the UK, Asia, Pacific, China, India, and the USA. The IET Hong Kong, there are 6 technical sessions organizing activities on different professional subjects, including electronics and communication, informatics and control technologies, management, power and energy, manufacturing and industrial engineering, railway and transport session. The Young Member Session. YMS aims to provide opportunities for young and future engineers to discover and unleash their potential. We organize events for engineers and students of age below 35, including young engineers in college. And engineering professionals and engineering students among universities in Hong Kong and Macau. Our goal is to contribute the power of young professionals to engineering a better world. Student Session is a joint university engineering society serving undergraduate engineering students from 6 universities. Also, it is a multidisciplinary association which provides a platform for networking, idea sharing, and having fun. IETSS and CPD had both organized different types of activities, such as CPD events and some kind of competition, overseas visit, technical visit, webinar, and some seminar, workshops, and career talk. We are preparing a lot of interesting events in the coming year, so feel free to join us. If you would like to keep up with our latest updates, you could visit and follow our social media accounts. You can follow our Facebook page, IG, or send email to us. After the webinar, we would like to have you fill in the evaluation form. Please note that the form will be used for attendance checking. Your feedback is immensely valuable to us for helping us improve and deliver better activities for you next time. Before the sharing starts, let us take a photo to commemorate this event. Would everyone please wait for a moment and we will take a photo. Thank you. Is that okay? Okay.
Yes, Hanson.
Okay. If Today, we are honored to have Mr. Perlia to be our guest speaker. He is a chartered engineer with 15 years of career in the railway infrastructure industry. He has delivered his career by working in technology supplier and consultancy companies, as well as representing railway operators. The projects that he delivered vary from metro, healthy rail, regional rail, and freight rail in Asia Pacific, including in Hong Kong, Southeast Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. Other than transportation, he has interested in sustainable infrastructure, development, and implementation of technology in the education sector. Now, let's invite Mr. Perlia to start his inspiring sharing on the evolution of railway. Mr. Perlia, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Anson, for the introduction. Let me share my screen. And kindly let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, thank you. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us in my presentation regarding the evolution of railway signaling from global and Hong Kong perspective. I would also like to thank IET Hong Kong chapter to invite me to deliver this presentation as part of the CPD activities. I'm grateful, then I hope that I can give a positive contribution to the engineering development in Hong Kong. So I divide my presentation this morning into 5 smaller sections, and I try to be concise because my main intention is to be able to provide information regarding railway signaling to the wide audience of this presentation. The first section, I would like to introduce myself, as well as the purpose of this presentation, and then it will be followed with what really is railway signaling, its evolution, the signaling system in Hong Kong's railway network, and for the last section, it will be regarding equipment to implement the signaling system. Okay, so the objectives of the presentation are primarily to explain the functions and the evolution of railway signaling to the audience, and hopefully without complex terminologies. The audience of the presentation today might come from different backgrounds, different industry, and probably are not very familiar with railway signaling terminology. So I'll try to minimize complex wordings or terminologies associated with the industry. Just a little bit of myself. I have over 15 years of career in the railway industry. In the past, I helped to deliver railway signaling systems for metro, heavy rail, and regional railways, predominantly in Asia Pacific, including in Hong Kong, Southeast Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. Okay, so what really is a railway signaling? So just giving a little bit of a story. Railway signaling industry was the first industry that I joined after I finished my university. I remember when I applied for the career opportunity, I sort of guessed the word signaling here refers to signal processing, as it was one of the subjects in my university, but apparently it's not related to signal processing as such. On the screen at the moment, I share 2 photos. The one on the left shows a road traffic. It has traffic lights for drivers. And on the right-hand side, I have a photo of a railway line with trains, and similarly with you can say a traffic light as well, but in the railway signaling, we call it a signal, simply a signals. So the signals on both scenarios actually delivers the same purpose. It gives instruction to the driver, either car drivers or train drivers, an instruction whether they can proceed or they have to stop behind the signals. However, there are some similarities and differences between road traffic light and railway signal. As what I have mentioned before, the similarity is both of them exist to direct traffic and keep vehicles clear of each other. In other words, the purpose is to avoid collisions and to ensure smooth flow of the traffic. However, there are a couple of differences between the two. The first one is that train moves on fixed rails. In other words, that it cannot maneuver, unlike cars or motorcycles, for example. The other difference is that train is much heavier than cars. Therefore, it is more difficult to decelerate or to stop, to apply braking, and also more difficult to accelerate as well. So I move to the next section of my presentation, which is on the evolution of railway signaling. So I try not to focus heavily on the dates, on the historical dates, because in the past I read a couple of literature regarding the history of railway signalings, and obviously there are more sources regarding this, and they tend to give various dates depending on the regions of where the railway was introduced. For example, whether it was in the UK or in the United States or in other part of the world. So the first form of railway signaling back then, when a railway was first introduced, it was called timetable and train order. So this was probably implemented in early 1800s. A timetable contains a schedule for train driver to operate the trains. But since it is in a printed format with fixed dates and time, therefore it cannot cater for unusual services or breakdowns or any other scenarios beyond planning, for example, weather. Now, the other format is called train order. Again, this is a text-based format that provides the means to deal with changes in operating conditions. So the problems for these two signaling information are they are paperwork driven, and because they are word-based, then they can be ambiguous and open for interpretation by the train driver who holds the timetable or the train order. The next form of a signal is called a token. Again, this was introduced in early 1800s. It is an object which a train driver is required to have or see before entering a railway section. Now, because it is an object, it eliminates the danger of ambiguous or conflicting instruction of a train order. Basically, when a train driver has this object, it has authority of the lines, of the area. Now, the line or the area is normally written on the object itself. So I'm not sure if everyone here can see the object on the left-hand side, but actually there are some text there showing the line or the area in which the token is applicable to. It eliminates ambiguity of words on a timetable or a train order. However, there was still a problem here that a token for the wrong section might be given to the train driver. In other words, human error still plays a big factor for the use of tokens during that time. Okay, the next form of railway signals is called mechanical signal. So this was introduced approximately in 1840s, and it marked the beginning of fixed block signaling and interlocking. What it means by fixed block signaling is that the mechanical signal protects the block. So the block, imagine the whole railway line is divided into several blocks or several sections. This mechanical signal protects the block. And in order to operate the signal, a system called interlocking was also introduced. Now, this interlocking prevents incorrect signal to be shown on site. Only one train is permitted in each block at one time. This was a huge advancement compared from the previous form of railway signal, which was a token or timetable and train order. However, there was a problem with mechanical signal. For example, it has excessive moving parts. It doesn't work at night, and signs may not be very intuitive. The next evolution of railway signal comes in the form of a color light signal. It was introduced in early 1900s, and probably it is the form that is widely used worldwide at the moment, whether it is in America or United Kingdom, in Asia or in Australia, New Zealand, and Africa. It still uses fixed blocks and interlocking. However, compared to mechanical signal, it uses no rotary or moving part. And obviously, it is more visible at night. Compared to mechanical signal, colors are easier to understand by train drivers. And normally it uses a combination of red, yellow, green, and blue. Again, this really depends on the operator's rule. So the meaning of the color or the sequence can be different from one area to another area. The problems with color light signal, for example, are cables on site to support the operation of the signals. They are prone to vandalism. Also, it requires maintenance. And although it can be seen easier at night, but it can still be difficult to see due to geographical contour of the railway line. Okay, so in mid-1900s, another form of railway signal was introduced. It's called cab signaling. So instead of having signals shown on site, actually the signals are shown in the driver's compartment. Now it still uses fixed block and interlocking. And there are two types of cab signaling. The first type is called intermittent type, which means that the signals shown on the cab is only updated at particular position of the railway line. The second type is called continuous type, in which the signal shown in the driver compartments is updated continuously. Normally for this type of cab signaling, the system uses the rail to transmit the info to the rolling stock or to the train. Significant maintenance is still required for cab signaling due to the equipment installed on the wayside. The alternative of cab signaling was later introduced, which is in the format of cab signaling with communications-based systems. So this was probably introduced around mid to late 1900s. It still shows signals in the driver's compartment, but because of continuous communication with the interlocking system, then the signal information shown on the cab is of a continuous type. This signaling system can be used for either fixed blocked railway signaling system or moving blocked. A fixed block, as what I explained before, it divides a railway line into several blocks or sections, and the position of the block on site, they are fixed. Now, moving blocked is a slight variation of the block system. So instead of having a fixed physical block on site, it's rather a virtual block in which the location of the block virtually moves together with the train operated on site. With a fixed block system, utilizing a cab signaling with communication-based system, there is actually insignificant capacity improvement. Significant capacity improvement can be attained if moving block is implemented. One other problem that is still possessed with cab signaling is that even though the signals are now shown in the driver compartment, the train driver can still make error in judging the information shown in front of them. In other words, they can still make error in their judgment. The trend at the moment is a so-called automatic train operations. It was started in around 1980s, and train movement is performed automatically by the signaling system in cooperation with the rolling stock operations. It eliminates human error in the form of train drivers' incorrect judgment, which was a dominant factor in the previous form of railway signaling. It can be done in either fixed blocked or moving blocked. Implementation of moving block here will increase the line capacity. Now, in terms of grade of automation, there are 4 levels of grade of automation. The first one is grade of automation 1, which is still a manual mode. And then if moved to level 2, which is called a semi-automatic automation level. In this mode, the train driver still needs to be in the driver compartment. However, the task of the train driver is only to press the button to start or to move the train, and to open and close the train door. Level 3 of the grade of automation is very similar to level 2. It's called driverless mode, but instead of calling the person in the driver's compartment as a train driver, normally they are called a train attendant in this mode. And the reason is because the person is not necessarily required to be in the driver's compartment. The person can be anywhere inside the train, but not necessarily in the driver's compartment. The last level is level 4. It's called unattended mode. In this mode, no train driver or train attendant is required to be present on the train. Okay. Next section is regarding signalings in Hong Kong's railway network. As everyone here has probably been aware already, a lot of people in Hong Kong rely on the Hong Kong railway network. Therefore, reliability and availability of the signaling system is very important in day-to-day life. For this reason, personally, I believe that people in Hong Kong are fortunate enough because the operators will need to keep up with the technology in the railway signaling in order to ensure the safe operation and a reliable operation of the railway network. In terms of the railway signaling technology, there are few lines in Hong Kong that have implemented automatic train operations, and they are mostly on level 2 and level 4. So the urban lines, which are Kwun Tong Line, Tsuen Wan Line, Allen Line, Chung Kwan O Line, as well as Tung Chung Line, Chun Ma Line, and Israel Line, they have already implemented grade of automation level 2. In comparison, the automated people mover in Hong Kong Airport, Disneyland Resort Line, and South Island Line, they have implemented grade of automation level 4. The South Island Line is the latest one that implemented level 4, and we can easily witness that there is no driver compartment on the train. Okay, so in the previous sections, I explained where the word railway signaling probably derived from. It's quite similar to traffic light on the road network. But actually, in order to ensure safe and reliable operation of a railway network, placing signals either on the wayside or on the cab, on the driver's compartment, or implementing an automatic train operation itself is not sufficient to operate the railway network. There are a few other equipments that are in place in the railway network. Other than signals, there are also equipment such as points, which is shown on the top right of my screen. The function of points or turnout is to allow trains to move from one line to another line. The other equipment to support the operation is called train detection. Now, train detection is required when fixed block is implemented on the railway line. Without giving too much on the terminologies, few equipment that can support train detection functions are called track circuits or axle counter. These two are probably the two most common forms of train detection equipment installed on site. The other equipment installed on site and can be easily seen by train passengers is a platform screen door. So platform screen door is installed on platforms in railway stations. For metro lines, like in Hong Kong or the tube in London, platform screen door are installed to ensure, number one, that people can enter and exit from the train safely, and also to ensure that the railway line itself is protected from people illegally entering the railway lines. Another equipment to support railway operations is a so-called a train or traffic controlled. So normally this equipment is in the form of a large screen showing the whole railway network and the position of trains operating on site. There are a few other equipments supporting the railway operations, but these 5 are probably the major equipment for the operation of railway network. Now, how do these equipment operate together safely? So there is a centralized system that, coupled with all this equipment, and it's called interlocking system. So interlocking system, they receive information from site, they process this information, and based on this processing logic, then they will use it to drive the signals, to drive the point machines, to open or to close the platform screen door, and to give the information to the train or traffic control so that the operator can have correct visual information of what's happening on site. Okay, so that probably concludes my presentation, a brief introduction of railway signaling, its evolution, and implementation of railway signaling systems in Hong Kong's railway network. The photo on the screen at the moment, I took it on the first day of the opening of the Sha Tin Central Link back in May this year, where I saw a huge enthusiasm by people in Hong Kong. And I hope my presentation can help nurturing the next young generations to get involved in the railway signaling industry. Obviously, it will be a good contribution to the industry worldwide, but of course, especially in Hong Kong. Thank you. I would love to hear any questions or feedback from the audience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Palia, for your inspiring presentation. Now it's time for the Q&A session. If you have any questions or anything that you would like to know more, please feel free to let us know using the Q&A function. And during the webinar, we have quite some questions. The first question is about, there is two different signaling systems, moving block and conventional type using track circuit. What is the risk when there is two different signaling systems on the same track, and how to mitigate it?
Okay, so normally for a moving block or CBTC applications, which is arguably the latest technology in the industry at the moment, normally they are installed on two scenarios. The first scenario is called a greenfield scenario, in which the railway line is a brand new infrastructure and the moving block CBTC system is installed for that project. So for this scenario, very likely that the moving block CBTC is the only system installed for that line. Now, the other scenario is called a brownfield project, in which the railway line already exists. There is already an existing form of railway signaling there. For example, conventional fixed block system. And then they would like to upgrade it to a moving block CBTC. During this transition, the client normally wants to have ability to switch from one system, from the conventional one, to the new system, which is the moving block CBTC system. The tests that will be required for this kind of project is quite extensive, because normally the client will not want to fully switch to the moving block CBTC system without having an assurance that the new system is able to operate 100% correctly. Therefore, having the flexibility to switch from the old system to the new system give the operators a flexibility until they gained the full confidence that the new system can operate correctly. Now, if two systems are required to be operated, whether at the same time or by using a switching mechanism, the complication here is that the system on the rolling stock or on the train needs the ability to operate with both systems. Okay, so on the rolling stock side, well, they need to be able to talk to either or both the CBTC or the conventional system. On the interlocking side, there must be a way or mechanism to allow these two systems operating for different rolling stock type on site. So the challenge here is the testing to cater for this scenario, this complex scenario, will be very extensive. And the second one is that the system on site needs to be very robust to ensure either in a scenario where both of them have to operate at the same time, or where switching from one system to the other one can be done in a safe manner. I hope that answers the first question.
Okay, here's the second question. Can you provide more information of East Rail Link, Tuen Ma Line, and high-speed railway in Hong Kong? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. For high-speed railway in Hong Kong, I probably cannot give too much information because so far in my career, I have not had huge amount of involvement in high-speed railway. For East Rail Line and Tuen Ma Line, my understanding is that the system implemented on site at the moment is automatic train operations with grade of automation level 2, which means the train driver is still there on the train in the driver's compartment to operate or to activate a minimum set of tasks on the train. For example, to press the button to initiate the train to move, and then to open and to close the train door. However, the acceleration and the braking or the stopping of the train is done automatically by the signaling system. I will not be surprised if the system has the ability to be converted into a full grid of automation level 4 in the future. Normally, the client requests this feature, and technology supplier company provides this flexibility depending on the project. So I'm not surprised if East Rail Line and Tuen Ma Line has this feature that can be implemented in the future.
Okay, and can you explain more specific on difference between fixed block and moving block system, especially on system performance?
Okay, so I'll try to perhaps explain this without getting too complex. Fixed blocks system, in this system, the whole railway lines is divided into a few blocks or few sections. This few blocks is separated by equipment on site. Okay, if it's a track circuit, then it's separated by a so-called circuit joints, or if it's separated by a technology called axle counter, then it's separated by a so-called axle counter heads. So on site, there are physical equipment to separate these blocks. On moving block system, there is no physical equipment on site to separate these blocks. So the difference is this. So imagine for a railway, imagine for trains to operate on a railway, imagine the safe separation between a train and a following train is, let's say, 100 meters, for example, or 200 meters. But then the length of the block on site may not be precisely the same number of this safe separation distance. It can be more than that. Now, because the physical arrangement is longer than what is required for a safe separation between two trains, That means when we operate the trains, we lose the optimized capacity of the line itself. In comparison with moving block system, the block can be adjusted easily to give the exact safe separation distance for the trains. So imagine if the safe separation distance is 100 meters, then the system will give a virtual block of 100 meters behind the first train, and this block will follow the first train with a fixed length of 100 meters, so that the second train is 100 meters behind the first train. So for this answer, I probably oversimplify my answer because in reality it's a little bit more complicated about that. But in principle, that's how they implement the moving block system.
Okay. Someone asked the update on signaling system on MTR urban line has delayed for a long time. What are the technical difficulties on implementing the system update in MTR urban lines?
Okay, so this is probably quite related to the first questions that we had in the forum. I can see a couple of difficulties of doing system update on a railway line like MTR. In fact, it's probably not just a problem or challenge on MTR railway line. In Hong Kong, people rely a lot on the railway network. Similarly, in places like Singapore or cities like London, New York, and probably few cities in the region, in the Asia Pacific region as well. Because of that, the window that the operator and the technology supplier has to test the technology on site is quite limited. Normally, they only have the time when the railway line is not open, it's not in operation. In Hong Kong, we're probably talking about 3 hours or 4 hours window every day, which is quite a short duration of time to do a testing on site. In comparison, in other places where people do not rely on the railway network as heavily as in Hong Kong or Singapore or London, sometimes the client has the flexibility to close the railway line or a portion of the railway line for a few days or maybe for 1 or 2 weeks, depending on the complexity of the project. So I think this is one of the challenges that railway operators have in places like Hong Kong or Singapore or London. The other difficulties is probably in the form of a brownfield project. So all railway lines already exist in Hong Kong. They already have a railway signaling technology implemented on site. When they want to impose a new railway signaling technology, they cannot just switch easily from the old one to the new one. What I'm trying to say here is that they have to test the brand new one first, and having the flexibility of switching back to the old one until the new system is fully tested. Or in some rare occasions, both the new one and the old one need to operate at the same time. So these two scenarios actually impose a great challenge for both the railway operators like MTR and also the technology suppliers to deliver the project safely. I hope that answers the questions.
Okay. And next is it harder to make a signal system for light rail or tram compared to those MTR lines in Hong Kong?
For light rail or tram, they are probably the signaling system is probably somewhere between a road traffic and rail traffic. Tram drivers are still there these days, and the signals that the tram drivers have to see are normally still located on the wayside or on the roadside. So in terms of signaling complexity, it's less complex compared to railway lines. Now, in Hong Kong, I noticed the tram lines, they still share some portion with road traffic. So there are some level crossings installed on the tram lines. So level crossing or pedestrian crossing, not only in Hong Kong tramway system, but also in cities like Melbourne or Vienna, the level of interlocking, although it's less complex compared to railway signaling, but it still has to interlock with equipment such as level crossing.
Okay, next question is about the CBTC. Is there any required function in CBTC, such as ATP, ATO, or ATS?
Okay, so CBTC is abbreviation for communication-based train control. However, most CBTC systems are moving block technology. Now, ATP is abbreviation for automatic train protection. ATO is automatic train operation, and ATS is automatic train supervision. So these three technologies, they are not necessarily installed for moving block. They can be installed for conventional fixed block system as well. So maybe in short, my answer will be in CBTC system, it has ATP, ATO, and ATS. However, in system with ATP, ATO, and ATS, they are not necessarily CBTC. They can be conventional fixed block system.
Here is also a question about CBTC. What will be the next technology to achieve high degree of improvement? Is there any improvement for the CBTC system?
Okay, so because CBTC system relies on communication, therefore the amount of infrastructure on site, on the wayside, can be minimized. For example, cables. Now, the more equipment installed on site, that means the operator will need to have a more robust maintenance regime. So more procedures, more time, and more costs. So if majority of the equipment can be reduced or minimized by implementing communications system, then that will be a huge benefit for the operators. The second one is that if the CBTC system implements a moving block system, then that will give it some increase in the line capacity, reduce the headway of the line.
Okay. Is the latest 5G wireless communication useful in the railway signaling? Some of the railway is underground. It is data transmission easy to be transmitted. Is that right?
Okay, so implementation of 5G wireless communication will definitely be useful for railway signaling because 5G has much better bandwidth, for example, and less latency in the communication. So this will be very useful for a railway signaling system because the new communication technology will be able to handle more information exchange between various equipment of railway signaling. For example, between the trains and the interlocking system, and then from the interlocking system later on to the traffic control, for example, and the wayside equipment as well.
Okay. what kind of wireless technology is using in communication, signaling, train, and control center? Will there any possibility of interference affecting rolling stock operations and safety?
Oh, this is a very good question. Obviously, with the growing technology in railway signaling, safety and reliability of communication system is very important. Advancement in wireless technology, whether it's in the form of a better bandwidth, lower latency, and safety and reliability, will be very useful for the system. At the moment, in many countries, a technology called GSM-R or GSM Railway is still being used, but there has been talks or even implementation in some area, in some countries, of 5G network in the railway network.
Okay. How do you foresee the future of signaling system after moving block system? Do you see any possibilities on further reducing train distance and train headway on a railway line with more advanced technology?
Okay, so at the moment, the so-called railway interlocking system, the main the main processing unit, the main brain of the interlocking is normally placed in a room in a particular locations, and then this interlocking system will need to digest all the information that it receives, and then based on that it operates equipment on site. I can probably say that mostly most railway signaling system in the world still implements this scheme. In the future, there has been white papers or talks that the function of the railway signaling can be transferred to the train itself. So imagine trains can talk to each other without going through the interlocking system. So I think this is still in a very early stage of the implementation. Some technology suppliers have released some prototype for these products, but I don't think I have seen it widely implemented yet. So it probably takes a few years before people think it is a robust technology.
Okay, here is the last question. Thank you for your reply for East Rail Link to Malai is GOA2. Similar to other metro lines in Hong Kong. However, will the operating principles of signaling system of East Rail Link to Malai is same as that for the metro lines?
In my opinion, the principle of signaling system, regardless of the technology used to implement it on site, the principle is the same. Maybe a slight variation from one area to another, but the principle to ensure a safe operation of trains on the railway line is the same. So East Rail Line and Tuen Ma Line, for example, it implements a grid of automation 2. GOA2 and GOA3 are probably the two most dominant GOA level implemented for many metro lines in the world. Yeah, so I can say that these two lines already implement signaling system quite similar to many metro lines in the world. The only difference that can be easily seen are probably that these two lines still require train driver on the train at the moment. But again, as what I mentioned before, I think there is a feature embedded at the moment that will allow the operation to be driverless in the future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Paria, again for your sharing. Would Mr. Paria please stop sharing the screen?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. This webinar is about to end. Before leaving the webinar, please spend some time filling in the evaluation form. Please again note that the form will be used for attendance checking. We are looking forward to your feedback, as it is extremely important for us to evaluate and plan our future events. The link of the form can be found in the chat box, or you can use this QR code. I hope you all have enjoyed the webinar and learned more about the evolution of railway signaling and its key electrical and mechanical system. Thank you, Mr. Pereira, for the great webinar, and thank you all again for joining us today. Stay safe and wish you all good health. Thank you.
Thank you.